Hello, this is Ray Edwards from LearnCopy.com, and in this video presentation I want us to take a look at the subject of headline writing. Now, 4 aspects of headline writing that we are going to be considering in this lesson are the properties of headline, the functions performed by headline, techniques, how we can apply those particular functions or implement those particular functions, and finally we're going to look at how we can go about brainstorming the best headlines that we can possibly use. Now, first, let us look at the matter of the functions of headline. Now, the headline functions to basically get attention, to identify your target audience, to deliver a complete benefit, to build curiosity, or promise benefit for reading the copy. Now, in terms of getting attention, different ways in which you can write headlines that would get attention are making your product or making the headline newsy. Words such as introducing, new, anything announcing. These are all different ways in which you can, make the headline newsy. Another is to make the headline shocking. Shocking would be very similar, basically, to surprising. But shocking, one of the most famous headlines, was written by the New York News today, was headless man found in topless bar. Okay, now that is shocking. The other is that of a paradox, and a paradox is where, a paradox also can be something that is surprising, but it's a paradox where you wouldn't expect this thing to happen. For example, John Carlton is famous headline about the one-legged golfer. Okay, so right away it comes to your mind, how could there be a one-legged golfer? How can someone play golf if they're one-legged? Okay, but all these are different ways of getting attention. The other is human interest. People are interested in other people, and so you can write a headline about someone. So, for example, mom makes $500 per day staying at home. Okay, the human interest comes in, as well as there's a certain level of paradox, because how could she make so much money online just by staying at home? Okay, so paradox and human interest would come into play. Okay, now the next is that of identify. Next function is that of identify the target audience. For example, attention, this would be like newsy, doctors, plumbers, or so forth. Right away you know that the ad is for you because you're calling out a particular audience. So a function carried out by the headline is to identify the audience. The other is to deliver a complete benefit, or the unique selling proposition. And we'll look at some examples. The other is to build curiosity. A very important factor in headline writing is to build curiosity. But it's best if in building curiosity, you also follow the curiosity by a benefit. It is shown through many tests that just curiosity alone would not carry a headline. It doesn't make a headline very effective if you're just using it to build curiosity alone. It's best to have a headline that not only builds curiosity, but is followed by a benefit. Okay, next and final function we're going to look at is the promised benefit for reading the copy itself. This is what I refer to as value-added copywriting. Okay, value-added copywriting. So you are promising the reader, you're promising the prospect that if they read your copy, they are going to learn something that is important. Okay, so just by reading the copy alone, just by reading the sales copy alone, you're promising them that they are going to learn something. They're going to learn something new. Okay, now the next thing we're going to look at is the matter of the techniques of writing a headline. Now, a headline could carry basically just a pure benefit, or a headline could be just pure emotions, But the best type of headlines, the most effective type of headlines to use are headlines that carry a benefit and also is heavy with emotions. Okay, let's look at some examples here. First, we have a pure benefit would be like a direct claim. An example would be, for example, 1 cent per minute to India. Long distance, how you can get 1 cent per minute to India. Okay, that's giving a direct benefit or making a direct claim. Okay, these are pure benefit headline. The other one is a command, like start a new career today. Become an accountant in 12 months. Okay, these are command. Then one of the most effective headline, even though it's used many times, you cannot overlook, is how to. Okay, how to always work. In my experience, okay, how to always work. If you are stumped in writing a headline, always fall back to how to. Okay, always works. Okay, how to. And of course, the famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I think by Dale Carnegie. Next, pure benefit headline will be a guarantee. Okay, you're promising a particular result or their money back. Another pure benefit type of headline would be a reason why. Like 7 reasons why you should go back to school now. Okay, that's pure benefit, reason why. Another example is number, like 9 steps to making more money online. Okay, again, as a pure benefit headline. The other is where you are piling on the benefit. So you're telling the person they can get more leads, make more money, enjoy life. Okay, you're just piling on the benefits, one after the other. Okay, very effective as well too. And one of the more famous headlines as well too, especially online, is who else wants this particular benefit? And of course, we know the show, popular television show, who else would like to be a millionaire? Okay, so all these would be pure benefit headlines. Okay, now another type of headline here, another category of headlines here, and we're looking at the techniques, is that of pure emotions. And one is way in which you are digging into the frustration and the problem the person is having. So paying too much for car insurance, okay, this is a pure emotion headline. Okay, you are sympathizing with the frustration or the problem the person is having. The other would be like a warning, your home could be making you sick. Okay, this is building into the pure emotion of fear. Okay, and so these are very effective headlines, where you are getting attention by identifying with the particular or dominant emotion that the person is feeling at that time. Very easy way to get attention. Now, the other more effective headline, rather than just pure benefit or pure emotion, is a headline where you are combining both emotions and the benefit. Okay, so for example, you might say RCP is the best thing that happened to me. That would be like a test. That would be like a testimonial. Okay, emotion. Okay, that is giving a benefit and emotion. Okay, best thing that happened to me. Okay, the benefit, and the person is excited about that. Okay, benefit emotions would be announcing at last. Of course, it is newsy. The person is excited. This is something that could happen to you, and there's a benefit. Now, one of the most effective form of writing headline as well too is using the if-then structure. For example, if you can use a mouse, then you can make $10,000 more per month. Okay, the if-then. Okay, and both of these are involving both benefit and both emotions. You're combining both benefits and you're combining both the benefit and emotions. Okay, now let's go and we're going to look at the properties of. Next, we're going to look at the properties of headlines. Now, a headline should be telegraphic. Telegraphic in the sense that it should be succinct, meaning every word must bear its weight. So you do not want to be using any kind of words that doesn't carry its weight. Anything that can be cut, any kind of word or so forth that can be cut, then you want to you want to cut that word. Next, the headline, of course, has to be clear. The person must be able to read the headline once and understand what the headline is saying. You do not want to have a headline where the person have to think, well, more than once. They have to read the headline a second time before they can get the idea. So you're thinking basically then, billboard. Okay? A billboard message is there to be read by people who are driving on a highway at 60, 55 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour. And so therefore the billboard must be able to give its message right away. Okay, you cannot have long paragraphs or anything like that. People do not have enough time to read that. Okay, now another property for the headline is that, and that ties into the technique as well, so is that it must be emotional. Okay, make sure it involves love or gain, appeal to duty, to pride, to self-indulgence, to self-preservation. Okay, all these are emotions that could be appealed to for your headline. Okay, and then on a physical level as well, so your headline should be physically distinct. For example, for online sales letter, I like to use large sans serif fonts. Make sure you use dark colors, and I use quotation marks around them. All these help the headline to stand out. For a newspaper are going to use really large and bold fonts. Okay, so this should be visually distinct. The headline should be visually distinct. Okay, now we go to the subject of brainstorming a headline. How do you come up with a headline? After learning all of these properties of the headline, how do you actually go about brainstorming for a headline? Now, the first thing you have to do is to study the market. Okay, so know who you are speaking to, understand your audience, understand what their needs are, what their fears are. That's the only way actually you're going to get their attention. You want to speak to them in a way that they can say, well, this person really understands the pain and so forth that I'm going through. Okay, so you have to study your audience, study what their needs are, go to forums, go to their Facebook groups, try to read the things that they are reading and identify with their, what their fears are, their needs are, and so forth. That's the only way in which you're going to know, well, I'm scratching where they are actually itching. Then another way in which you can study your market is to study competitors' product. If you realize that there's a particular ad that is run over and over and over again, you know that this person, if they're running the ad over and over again, most likely this person is making a profit from this ad. And so if the person is making a profit from the ad, then you know that that particular ad is being effective. Okay, so you may want to model that particular headline. The other one is you can swipe old ads. Okay, look at old ads in that particular market that have worked. Of course, there's a certain headlines become worn out after a period of time. No particular headline is going to keep working over and over and over again. But again, you can model or you can swipe old ads and use the idea that is behind those old ads in order to come up with your own headline. Now the next is to then list the benefits. List the benefits that your product offers. Be specific, and not only be specific, but also make it believable. Okay. Now, for example, if you run an ad and say, well, here's how you can make more money by working less time. Maybe what you're saying is true, that someone can really make more money by working less time, but then it may not be believable. Another example, for example, would be how to make $15,000 per week. Maybe the method that you're showing can show the person how to make $15,000 per week. But if it is not in that person's realm of belief that they can make $15,000 per week, then your ad wouldn't be believable. So it must not only be true, but it must also be believable. The person must be able to see that. And that is why if you're going to make any kind of income claim in a headline, it's good to use a range of salaries or income rather than just one. So how to make 500, 5,000, or even $10,000 per month. The person may not be able to accept the 10,000, but they'll be able to accept maybe the 500. Okay, so a list of benefits. Okay, that's one way you can go about brainstorming a headline. The other I mentioned a while ago as well, to model all headlines. Use power words, use proven formulas, swipe ideas from from older headlines. Okay, headlines that has been very successful before. Okay, and I would recommend to you that on the matter of writing headline, that Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples. He has 4 chapters in the book, which makes up basically a quarter of the entire book, is about headline writing. Chapters 2, 3, 4, and 5. Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples is a very good book on headline writing. Okay. The other is to write several headlines. Now, after you have basically looked at all these different aspects of headline writing, then you may not be just satisfied if you just write one headline, but you can write several headlines, and from those several headlines, you would be able to try different headlines and test one headline, do a split test, a A/B test between those headlines, and see which one do better. Okay, mentioning John Caples, he suggests that between 50 and 75% of a response from an ad is weighted on the headline alone. So that is how important headline writing is. And so this is something that you really do want to take seriously. It's a very important part of your ad, and therefore you like to write several headlines, maybe up to 20 headlines, or at least 10 headlines. And eventually, even if you do not use that particular headline, you can end up use all the headlines. Sometimes you can use some of those headlines maybe as a bullet point, or maybe as a subhead. Okay. Now, speaking on the headline being succinct and clear and so forth, I like to use the rule of 17. I try to keep my headline words 17 and under. Okay. Some people think that is not a big deal about it, but I find about 17 words also works well for headline and making them as succinct as possible. Okay. So as I said, the subject of headline, can take up a whole book by itself. But the purpose of this quick lesson is just to show you the overview of headline writing. And again, the function of the headline is to get attention, identify your target audience, deliver a complete benefit, build curiosity, promise a benefit for reading the copy. And you have pure benefit types of headlines, and you also have pure emotion types of headlines. But the best types of headlines and the most effective types of headlines are headlines that combine both benefits and emotions. Then we look at the properties of a headline, make sure it is telegraphic. Ask yourself the question, can the person really understand this headline on one reading? Or do they have to read once or twice? Or do they have to read 2 times or 3 times? If they have to read more than once, then the headline need reworking. Is my headline emotional? Does it appeal to love, gain, duty, pride, self-indulgence, self-preservation? And is the headline visually distinct? Make sure it stands out. Make sure it's bold. Make sure it is set apart from the rest of the text. Think newspaper headline to the front, and it's above the fold, and it is in bold letters. And finally, in brainstorming a headline, first study your market. Maybe you'll be able to swipe all headlines. Then you can list your benefits, make sure they are specific, make sure they're also believable, and then you can model old headlines. And then finally, you can write several headlines from which you are able to choose the one that you think